where Elijah is walking toward his car. He checks his surroundings, ensuring no one is watching. A sleek black car pulls in, and the door opens to reveal Lucy, the alluring and sophisticated wife of Mr. Harris. She is in her late 30s, dressed elegantly, yet with a sense of urgency in her demeanor. Lucy whispering, "Elijah, we need to talk. It's dangerous, but I can't stop thinking about you." Elijah looks around nervously before opening the car door for her. Their eyes lock, filled with a mix of desire and apprehension. He closes the door behind them, and they drive off together in silence, heading towards a secluded location. Elijah and Lucy arrive in his car, the tension between them palpable. They step out of the car, exchanging brief, nervous glances. Lucy, softly, "I never wanted it to come to this, but every moment with you feels like I'm finally free." Elijah, hesitant, "You're playing with fire, Lucy. If anyone finds out about us, it's over." Lucy steps closer, her breath hot against his ear as she speaks with conviction. "Lucy, I don't care anymore. I'm stuck in a cage with him, Elijah, and I need to feel alive." They enter the cabin, locking the door behind them. The scene fades to black as they succumb to their hidden passion. Mr. Harris is seen in his office, his cold eyes scanning through papers, unaware of the betrayal happening right under his nose. He picks up his phone and calls Elijah to ask him to pick him up for an important meeting. Meanwhile, Elijah's phone buzzes in his pocket. It's a message from Lucy. "Lucy, text message, meet me tonight. Same place. We need to talk about what happens next." Elijah, text reply, "It's too risky. I can't keep doing this." The weight of his emotions clear. His loyalty to his employer and his desires for Lucy begin to tear at him. Elijah arrives at the mansion to pick up Mr. Harris. The grand staircase, adorned with expensive decor, makes it clear that the Harris family lives in wealth and luxury. Elijah's unease grows as he thinks about what he's about to do. As Mr. Harris comes downstairs, he pauses, eyeing Elijah with a strange intensity. There is a sense that he suspects something. Mr. Harris, suspiciously, "Elijah, I've been meaning to ask you something. Are you sure everything is in order?" Elijah's heart races as he responds with a forced smile. "Elijah, everything is fine, sir. No need to worry." But as Mr. Harris walks past him, his expression hardens, and he gives Elijah a lingering look, one filled with doubt, as if he knows more than he lets on. Elijah parks his car in the same lot where he met Lucy. He is visibly anxious. As he gets out, he sees a shadow approach from behind. It's Mr. Harris, who has been tailing him for days without Elijah realizing. Mr. Harris, calmly, "Elijah, I know what you've been doing." Elijah's face as his world begins to crumble. He opens his mouth to speak, but Mr. Harris holds up his hand. Mr. Harris, coldly, "You think I didn't notice the signs? I've been watching you. I know everything." Elijah stands frozen, sweat dripping down his face as Mr. Harris steps closer, his presence imposing. "Mr. Harris, you've crossed a line, Elijah. And now, I'm going to make you pay for it." Where Lucy is pacing nervously in her living room. She anxiously checks her phone, waiting for Elijah to arrive. Just as she sits down, a knock on the door echoes through the silence. Lucy opens the door to find Mr. Harris standing there, his eyes filled with fury. "Mr. Harris, you've made a fool of me, Lucy. And now we both have to deal with the consequences." Lucy, shocked. "What are you talking about?" Mr. Harris, gritting his teeth, "I know about you and Elijah. This ends now." Lucy stands in stunned silence as Mr. Harris strides toward her, his anger consuming him. The camera zooms in on her conflicted expression, realizing that their secret affair has just spiraled out of control. Elijah and Lucy are seated together in the dim light of the cabin, their faces filled with dread as they discuss their next move. Lucy, desperate, "Elijah, we can't stay here. He knows. He's going to ruin us." Elijah, frantic, "We can't go back now. He'll make sure we never see the light of day again. We have to leave, disappear." Lucy nods, tears streaming down her face. Their future is uncertain, but their love is all that remains. Elijah and Lucy stand on the platform, their bags in hand. The train arrives with a low hum. They exchange one final, lingering look as they board the train, knowing that their lives will never be the same again. The camera lingers on their faces as the train begins to pull away, symbolizing their final escape from the world they once knew. The train slows to a stop, and Elijah and Lucy disembark in a quiet, rustic town. The air is fresh, and the sky is clear. They look around, overwhelmed by the serenity of their new surroundings. They have no plan but to leave their past behind and start fresh. Lucy, softly, "We're free now. But what do we do next?" Elijah, sighing, "I don't know, Lucy, but we'll figure it out. Together." They walk down the deserted street, looking for a place to stay, a new life waiting to unfold before them. The town feels like a blank canvas, a chance to build something far away from the chaos they've left behind. Back in the city, Mr. Harris is in his lavish office, brooding over Elijah and Lucy's disappearance. His hands grip the edge of the desk, his face flushed with anger. The tension in the room is suffocating as he speaks into the phone, barking orders. Mr. Harris, furiously, "Find them. I don't care how, but find them. They can't get away with this." He slams the phone down, staring out the window with a dangerous glint in his eyes. The camera zooms in on his expression, revealing the depth of his obsession. His pursuit of revenge has only just begun. Weeks pass. Elijah and Lucy have settled into the small town, blending in with the locals. They have jobs now. Elijah works as a mechanic, and Lucy has found work at a local art gallery. They live modestly, but are content. Their love for each other grows stronger every day as they carve out a life for themselves. One evening, they sit on a park bench, watching the sunset together, their hands entwined. The peacefulness of the town has become their refuge from the world they left behind. Lucy, smiling, "It feels like we can breathe again." Elijah, gently squeezing her hand, "Yeah, it does. No more running, no more fear. Just us." The sound of a car engine breaks the tranquility of the evening. Elijah and Lucy step out of their apartment, only to find a black car parked in front of the building. Their hearts race as they recognize the figure stepping out of the car, Mr. Harris. Mr. Harris, grinning darkly, "Did you really think you could escape?" Lucy gasps, her body going rigid with fear. Elijah steps in front of her protectively, his eyes narrowing in anger. Elijah, defiant, "This is over, Harris. Leave us alone." Mr. Harris chuckles, his voice low and menacing. "Mr. Harris, you think it's that easy? You're mine, Elijah, and you're going to pay for what you did." Elijah and Lucy find themselves trapped in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, surrounded by Mr. Harris's men. The dim light casts long shadows on the walls as Elijah stands at the center, facing Mr. Harris in a tense standoff. Mr. Harris, gritting his teeth, "You really thought you could outrun me, didn't you? You thought you could just walk away from all this?" Elijah, calmly, "I didn't want any of this, Harris. But you've crossed the line." Lucy stands in the background, watching the confrontation unfold. Her fear is palpable, but her resolve is even stronger. She steps forward, standing beside Elijah. Lucy, defiantly, "We're not afraid of you anymore, Mr. Harris. We've chosen our own path, and you can't take that from us." The tension builds as Mr. Harris narrows his eyes. A gunshot rings out, but it isn't from him. One of his men falls to the ground, unconscious. The camera reveals a shadowy figure standing in the doorway. It's a local sheriff who had been tipped off by a concerned citizen. A group of officers storms the warehouse, taking down Mr. Harris's men and arresting him. Mr. Harris, screaming, "This isn't over. I'll make you regret this." With Mr. Harris in custody, Elijah and Lucy are free to continue their lives without fear. The town has become a safe haven, and they've finally put the past behind them. They stand outside their modest home, watching as the sun rises over the horizon. There is a sense of peace and renewal in the air. Lucy, smiling, "We've made it, Elijah. We've really made it." Elijah, holding her hand, "Together, we're unstoppable." Months have passed since the arrest of Mr. Harris. Elijah and Lucy have settled into their new lives, their love stronger than ever. They sit in a small, cozy diner, enjoying a quiet breakfast together. Elijah watches Lucy as she sips her coffee, a sense of contentment on his face. Suddenly, the door to the diner opens and a familiar face enters a man in his 40s, dressed in a sharp suit. It's one of Mr. Harris's former associates, a man named Vincent. He scans the room and locks eyes with Elijah. The tension in the air shifts as both men recognize each other. Elijah's grip tightens on his coffee cup. Vincent, smiling slyly, Well, if it isn't the runaway driver. Elijah stands up, his face hardening. Lucy looks between the two men, her heart racing. Elijah, calmly, What do you want, Vincent? Vincent, leaning on the counter. Mr. Harris might be in jail, but his empire's still standing. And you, Elijah, are still on his radar. You can't hide forever. Elijah takes a deep breath, his mind racing. He knows this isn't over, but he won't let anyone drag him back into that life. Lucy's hand finds his under the table, a silent gesture of support. Lucy, defiantly, We've moved on, Vincent. You can't intimidate us anymore. Vincent chuckles, then turns to leave, but not before delivering his final warning. Vincent, smiling darkly, We'll see about that. Later that evening, Elijah and Lucy walk through the quiet streets, the sound of their footsteps echoing in the cool air. They've made a decision. Elijah, firmly, We can't keep running from the past. We need to make sure it never catches up with us. Lucy, nodding, What do you mean? Elijah, determined, We need to start fresh, but in a way that makes sure no one can ever threaten us again. We need to build something that will protect us, something that will make us untouchable. Lucy, thoughtful, You mean like starting a business? Something of our own? Elijah nods, a plan beginning to take shape in his mind. Elijah, Exactly. If we're going to start over, we need control over our lives. We'll create something strong, something that no one can tear down. Lucy, smiling, And we'll do it together. They stop in front of a small, rundown building, a former warehouse, now abandoned. The possibilities start to unfold before them. Elijah and Lucy have taken the first steps toward their new life. The old warehouse has been transformed into a thriving business, an auto repair shop run by Elijah, with an art gallery and workshop managed by Lucy. They've found a balance between their different worlds, and the business is becoming a success. Local townspeople stop by, the walls adorned with Lucy's artwork and Elijah's garage buzzing with activity. Elijah is working on a car when a local customer, Marcus, walks in with his car keys in hand. He nods in approval as he looks around the newly renovated space. Marcus, This place is something else, Elijah. You've really turned this dump around. Elijah, smiling, We're just getting started. Lucy enters from the back, carrying a freshly painted canvas. She beams at Elijah. Lucy, cheerfully, The gallery's doing great, too. More and more people are stopping by every day. This town feels like home now. As the business thrives, the shadows of the past loom once again. One day, a black car pulls into town, its windows tinted. Inside, Mr. Harris's former associates step out, Vincent and a few other men. They walk toward the business with cold, determined steps. Elijah sees them from a distance, and his heart sinks. Lucy, noticing his tense expression, What's wrong? Elijah, grimly, They're back. The associates approach the building, Vincent leading the way. Elijah steps out to meet them, his face hard and unyielding. Vincent, smiling wickedly, Nice place you've got here. But you should know, Elijah, this town, it's not big enough for the both of us. Elijah stands tall, his resolve stronger than ever. He knows he won't back down this time. Elijah, calmly, You'll have to take it from us, Vincent. This is our life now, and we're not going anywhere. Vincent looks around, his eyes narrowing. He knows Elijah means business, but there's a dark sense of satisfaction in his eyes. He knows that this won't be the last time they meet. Vincent, coldly, You'll regret this, Elijah. Mark my words. With one final glare, Vincent and his men walk away, leaving Elijah and Lucy standing at the doorstep, ready to protect the life they've built. Elijah and Lucy sit together in the quiet of their business after hours, the weight of the situation on their shoulders. Their determination has never been stronger, though. Lucy, softly, "No matter what happens, we've got each other. And we've built something that no one can take from us." Elijah, squeezing her hand, "They can threaten us, they can try to break us, but we're not backing down. This is our home now." They sit in the silence for a moment, the sound of the world outside fading away as they draw strength from one another. The next morning, the town buzzes with activity. Word spreads quickly that Vincent and his associates have left town for good. The business continues to grow, and the couple's reputation as local heroes spreads even further. Elijah and Lucy stand outside, watching the sunrise together. The future looks bright, and for the first time in a long while, they feel truly at peace. Lucy, smiling, "We did it, Elijah. We're free." Elijah, grinning, "Together, we are." Elijah pulls away from Lucy, looking around to make sure no one is watching. He glances at her nervously, then leans against her car. "Elijah, I know, this is crazy, but I can't help it. I keep thinking about you, too." Lucy bites her lip, her hands trembling as she grips the steering wheel of her car. "Lucy, we can't keep meeting like this. It's too dangerous, Elijah. Someone might find out, and everything will fall apart." Elijah moves closer, resting a hand on her arm, his voice soft but urgent. "Elijah, I don't care about the danger. I care about you. I've never felt this way before." Lucy looks at him with a mix of longing and fear. "Lucy, but you have a life, Elijah. You have your family, your job. If this gets out, we'll lose everything." Elijah takes a deep breath, his eyes locked on hers. "Elijah, maybe it's time to stop living in fear. What if we could just start over? Away from all of this?" Lucy hesitates, glancing at the road as if contemplating the possibilities. "Lucy, run away together? You're asking me to throw it all away? Elijah, I'm asking you to choose us. To choose something real, something we deserve." Lucy's eyes soften, torn between her love for him and the life she's built. "Lucy, I don't know if I can leave everything behind. I've worked so hard to get where I am. Elijah, you deserve more than this, Lucy. You deserve to be happy." Lucy takes a shaky breath and then looks into his eyes, finally deciding. "Lucy, okay, let's run. Together." Elijah smiles, relief washing over him. He takes her hand, squeezing it gently. "Elijah, we'll figure it out. Just you and me." Lucy nods, her heart pounding. She starts the car, and they drive off into the unknown, leaving everything behind. Elijah and Lucy drive down the highway in silence, the weight of their decision hanging heavily between them. The scenery outside the window is a blur of green fields and open roads, an escape from the lives they've known. Elijah glances at Lucy, her eyes focused on the road ahead, her grip tight on the wheel. "Elijah, where do we go now?" Lucy's voice is barely a whisper, a mix of excitement and uncertainty. "Lucy, I don't know. Somewhere far away. Somewhere no one knows us." Elijah nods, trying to calm his racing thoughts. "Elijah, we'll figure it out. We always do." Lucy exhales deeply, trying to push the nagging doubts aside. "Lucy, I just hope we don't regret this." Elijah reaches over, gently touching her hand, offering a reassuring smile. "Elijah, regret? The only regret I'll have is not doing this sooner." Lucy smiles faintly, but it's clear she's still battling her fears. They drive for miles, the road stretching endlessly before them. As they approach a small, quiet town, Lucy pulls into a gas station. "Lucy, we need to stop and get some supplies. Food, maybe a place to stay." Elijah nods, glancing at the small motel sign across the street. "Elijah, I'll go in and get some snacks. You stay here. We need to lay low for a bit." Lucy hesitates for a moment, then nods. Elijah heads into the gas station, leaving her in the car. She watches him walk away, her mind racing with everything she's just left behind. As she sits there, lost in her thoughts, a car pulls up next to hers. A man steps out, looking familiar. He glances at Lucy, his eyes narrowing. Lucy's heart skips a beat. It's her husband, Samuel. Samuel. Looking around. Lucy? What are you doing here? Lucy's stomach drops. She knows there's no way to explain this without the truth coming out. Panic sets in as Samuel steps closer to her car. Lucy. Slowly. Samuel. I didn't think you'd find me here. Samuel's expression turns from confusion to anger as he realizes something is wrong. Samuel. Who are you with? Is that Elijah? Lucy's mind races. She can't keep lying to him any longer. This is the moment everything could fall apart. Lucy. Trembling. Yes. It's Elijah. Samuel's face hardens. He takes a step back, visibly shaken. Samuel. You've been seeing him behind my back? Lucy takes a deep breath, the weight of her confession heavy on her chest. Lucy. I'm sorry, Samuel. I never meant for it to happen, but I love him. I can't keep pretending. Samuel stands there, speechless for a long moment, his anger and hurt palpable. Finally, he speaks, his voice cold and distant. Samuel, you have no idea what you've just done. Before Lucy can respond, Elijah returns to the car, noticing the tension in the air. Elijah, quietly, is everything okay? Lucy looks at him, her heart breaking as she faces the consequences of their actions. Lucy, softly, I think we're about to find out. The room is dimly lit, casting soft shadows across the elegant furniture. The scent of the candle wax lingers in the air as Elijah and Lucy sit on the plush sofa, their faces inches apart. The heat between them is undeniable, but so is the underlying tension. Elijah, hesitant. Lucy, what are we doing? This isn't who we are. Lucy, softly, but with conviction. No, Elijah, it's exactly who we are right now. We can't keep pretending that we don't feel this. Her hand gently brushes against his, sparking a shock of electricity between them. Elijah looks down at their intertwined fingers, torn between guilt and desire. Elijah, but your husband he'll find out. And what about everything we've worked for? The mess we'll create. Lucy, leaning closer, her voice a whisper. Let me worry about him. For tonight, all that matters is us. The candles are now extinguished, the only light coming from the dim glow of the moon outside. Elijah and Lucy are tangled in the sheets, they're breathing heavy, but the weight of their actions is heavy in the air. Lucy, whispering, do you regret this? Elijah runs a hand through his disheveled hair, his eyes focused on the ceiling as he tries to find the right words. Elijah, I don't know. I don't want to regret it, but pauses. It feels like we're playing a dangerous game. Lucy moves closer, tracing a finger along his chest as she speaks with a tinge of vulnerability. Lucy, maybe some games are worth playing. Elijah shifts, pulling her closer as his face softens, but there's still a lingering doubt in his eyes. Elijah, I never wanted to hurt anyone, especially not you. Lucy sighs, her tone soft but firm. No one has to know. We can keep this between us. The sun rises, casting its golden light over the room. Elijah is already dressed, standing by the window, his expression unreadable. Lucy stirs in the bed, slowly waking up to the reality of the night before. Lucy, groggily. Elijah? He turns to face her, his eyes filled with a mixture of longing and regret. Elijah, I should go. This was a mistake. Lucy sits up, her gaze intense, but also pleading. Lucy, please don't walk away. There's a brief moment of silence before Elijah speaks again, his voice low. Elijah, if we keep doing this, there's no going back. You know that, right? Lucy's eyes fill with a mix of sadness and determination. Lucy, I know, but I don't think I care anymore. The air is thick with tension. Elijah stands by the door, his coat already on, ready to leave. Lucy is seated on the sofa, watching him with a mix of desperation and longing. She knows their connection can't last forever, but She's afraid to let go. Lucy, softly, with a touch of fear. Where are you going? Elijah, avoiding her gaze. I have to go back to my life. Lucy, whatever this is, it can't keep going. Lucy rises from the sofa, her voice rising with emotion. Lucy.
Why?
Because of your conscience? Because of the consequences? Or because you're afraid of what this could become? Elijah pauses, torn by her words. He turns to face her, his expression raw. Elijah, frustrated. Because it's wrong. Because it's destroying us both. I don't want to be the reason you ruin your marriage. Lucy steps closer, her gaze never leaving his. Lucy, with an edge of defiance. What if I'm already ruined? What if everything I thought I had, everything I thought I wanted, isn't enough anymore? Elijah takes a deep breath, struggling to keep his emotions in check. Elijah. Lucy, this isn't just about us. This is about the people we'll hurt. The lies we'll have to keep telling. I can't do that to you, or to myself. Lucy. Her voice cracking, a mix of anger and vulnerability. Then what do you want, Elijah? Do you want to walk away? Leave me behind and pretend this never happened? The room falls into a suffocating silence as Elijah looks away, unable to answer. But Lucy presses on, unable to hold back the tears that have been threatening to spill. Lucy, her voice barely above a whisper. I need you, Elijah. Don't you understand that? Lucy sits alone in the same living room, her eyes lost in thought as she sips a glass of wine. The weight of Elijah's departure hangs heavily in the air, but there's something else gnawing at her. The inevitable confrontation with her husband. The sound of a car pulling up outside draws her attention. It's her husband, Gregory. She quickly wipes her eyes, trying to compose herself, but the truth of her affair is written in the heavy silence of the room. The front door opens and Gregory enters, his demeanor cold and distant as always. Gregory, sternly. Lucy, we need to talk. Lucy's heart sinks as she stands up, her face trying to mask the panic that bubbles beneath the surface. Lucy, forcing a smile. Talk about what, darling? Gregory's gaze hardens as he steps further into the room. Gregory, I know about Elijah. Lucy's blood runs cold. Her worst fear is now reality. Lucy, trying to maintain composure but failing.
What are you talking about?
Gregory, don't play coy with me, Lucy. I've known for weeks. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the way you look at him when you think I'm not paying attention. You think I don't notice? Lucy's hands tremble slightly as she places her wine glass down. She knows she's trapped, but she refuses to show weakness. Lucy, defiantly, what do you want from me, Gregory? A confession? To hear me say it aloud? Gregory steps closer, his face a mask of fury and betrayal. Gregory, coldly, I want you to admit it, that you've betrayed me, that you've been lying to my face this entire time. And I want to know if it was worth it. Lucy stands frozen, her eyes meeting his. For a long moment, neither of them speaks. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she answers. Lucy, sincerely, though broken. It wasn't about you, Gregory.
It was about me.
I lost myself somewhere along the way. And Elijah made me feel alive again. Gregory's eyes darken as he absorbs her words, the weight of betrayal settling in. Gregory, coldly, voice trembling with rage. I gave you everything, Lucy. And this is how you repay me? Lucy is alone, pacing back and forth, the reality of her choices setting in. She can hear the muffled sound of Gregory on the phone, likely calling his lawyer. She knows things are unraveling, but she still can't shake the feeling of Elijah's absence. The doorbell rings. Lucy hesitates before slowly walking to the door, her heart racing. When she opens it, Elijah stands there, looking as torn and conflicted as she feels. Elijah, softly, I couldn't walk away, Lucy. I don't know what this is anymore, but I know I can't leave you alone. Elijah's fingers grip the steering wheel tightly, the engine purring beneath him as the car speeds through the city streets. He glances at the rearview mirror again, catching a glimpse of Mr. Harris, who is still deeply engrossed in the conversation on the phone. Mr. Harris. Into phone. I don't care what it takes. Just make sure it's done. I want it finalized today. There's a pause, and the silence in the car deepens. Elijah shifts in his seat, his focus wavering between the road and the swirling thoughts in his mind. He can't shake the memory of his last conversation with Lucy. She had left without a word, and now every minute feels like a countdown to something inevitable. The tension in the car becomes almost palpable as Elijah's gaze flicks to the rearview mirror once more. Mr. Harris is oblivious, continuing his heated discussion, but Elijah can't help but wonder what the meeting today will mean for both of them. Mr. Harris. Angrily into phone. I'm not asking for a favor here. I'm demanding results. You'll get your payment once everything is in place. Elijah tries to tune out the conversation, but it's hard. The stakes for Mr. Harris's deal are high, everyone knows that. However, Elijah can't focus on business right now. He's been thinking about Lucy all day, wondering if she's out there waiting for him to come to her, or if she's moved on. A sharp pain gnaws at his chest. Suddenly, Elijah's phone buzzes in his pocket. He pulls it out quickly, his heartbeat quickening when he sees it's a message from Lucy. Text message. I need to see you. We need to talk. The words cut through him like a blade. He quickly taps out a response, his fingers shaking. Text message from Elijah. Where are you? Before he can wait for a reply, the phone buzzes again, but it's not from Lucy. It's from an unknown number. Text message from unknown. You need to keep your head in the game, Elijah. Don't let personal things distract you now. Mr. Harris is counting on you. Elijah's heart sinks. He glances at Mr. Harris in the rearview mirror, who is still on the phone, completely oblivious to the internal storm Elijah is enduring. The pressure builds, and Elijah takes a deep breath, trying to push aside his worries. But the thought of Lucy and the unresolved tension between them lingers like a storm on the horizon. The next few minutes pass in strained silence. Elijah's mind races. He can feel the weight of the deal and the impending confrontation with Lucy tugging at him from opposite directions. Elijah, quietly to himself. I can't afford to fail.
Not now.
Not with everything on the line. The car pulls into the parking garage beneath a sleek office tower. The hum of the engine fades as Elijah shifts into park, but the silence between him and Mr. Harris is deafening. Elijah takes a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. His phone buzzes again, but he ignores it. He can't afford distractions now. Mr. Harris finally ends his phone call, and the tension in the car seems to snap like a taut wire. Mr. Harris. Surprised. Are you okay? You seem distracted. Elijah forces a smile, doing his best to appear composed despite the storm brewing in his chest. Elijah. Quickly.
Yeah.
Just focused on the meeting. Mr. Harris eyes him for a moment, clearly unconvinced, but he doesn't press. He opens the door to exit the car, adjusting his suit jacket as he steps out. Elijah follows suit, shutting the door with more force than necessary. His mind is still on Lucy. He can't shake the image of her standing in front of him, her expression unreadable. He can't afford to let his personal life interfere, but how can he focus when she's all he thinks about? As Elijah follows Mr. Harris into the building, the weight of the moment settles on his shoulders. The elevator ride is silent except for the soft hum of machinery, and Elijah feels the impending confrontation with Lucy hanging over him like a shadow. They enter the meeting room, a sleek, modern space with a long glass table and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Several executives are already seated around the table, waiting for Mr. Harris to take charge. Elijah remains standing by the door, his mind still miles away. He can't focus on the charts and figures spread out on the table in front of him. The conversation around him fades into the background as his phone vibrates again in his pocket. He knows it's Lucy, but he ignores it.
He has to.
Mr. Harris sits at the head of the table, immediately diving into business. The deal is complex, involving several high-profile companies, and it's clear that every word spoken in this room is crucial. Elijah nods along, trying to appear engaged, but his mind drifts back to Lucy once again. Mr. Harris. Seriously, to the room? We need to make sure all details are aligned. There can be no room for error. Elijah, I need you to handle the logistics on this side.
Get it done.
Elijah snaps to attention, nodding as he mentally prepares to take charge of his part of the deal. But the message from Lucy flashes in his mind once more. Text message from Lucy: I'm at the usual place. Please come. The urgency in her message hits him like a wave. The meeting is moving forward, but Elijah feels the pull of his personal life tightening around him like a vice. He knows he's running out of time. Elijah, softly, to himself, just a little longer. I'll get through this, then I can deal with it. But as the discussion continues, Elijah's mind is a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts. He needs to make a choice, stay focused on the deal and secure his future, or risk it all for a chance to fix things with Lucy. The decision gnaws at him, but there's no easy answer. The minutes tick by slowly, each one feeling like an eternity. As the meeting reaches a critical juncture, Elijah finally stands up, unable to focus any longer. Elijah, briefly, excuse me, I need to step out. Without waiting for a response, he quickly exits the room. His footsteps echo down the empty hallway as he pulls his phone from his pocket. The message from Lucy still burns in his mind. Text message from Elijah: I'm on my way. As Elijah leaves the building and heads toward the parking lot, his thoughts swirl. He can't ignore the undeniable pull toward Lucy, but the consequences of stepping away from his responsibilities loom large. The night ahead will determine everything: his business future and the fragile thread that connects him to the woman he loves. Lucy hurries to the restroom, trying to remain calm. She pulls out her phone, texting Elijah. Text message: what's the plan? Back at the table, Elijah is struggling to maintain composure as he continues his conversation with Mr. Harris. Elijah, trying to sound casual, just grabbing a bite after work. What about you, Mr. Harris? Mr. Harris, eyeing him suspiciously. A bit of business and pleasure, I suppose. But something doesn't feel right. Who are you with, Elijah? Elijah's heart races as he tries to stall for time, his phone vibrating with a message from Lucy. Text message: I'm just going to wait in the restroom for now.
Stay calm.
Elijah quickly types a reply, but pauses as he notices Mr. Harris watching him intently. Elijah, lying smoothly. Oh, just a friend. You know how it is. Trying to keep things low-key. Mr. Harris narrows his eyes, his colleague chiming in.
Colleague.
Cheerfully. Small world, huh? You should join us for a drink, Elijah. It's been a while. Elijah forces a smile, but his mind races. Lucy is still in the restroom, and his only choice is to keep playing the part. Elijah, awkwardly. I wish I could, but I'm on a tight schedule. Maybe another time. Mr. Harris watches Elijah for a beat, then seems to relax. Mr. Harris, softening. I see. Well, take care. Let's catch up soon. As Mr. Harris and his colleague move toward their table, Elijah exhales a quiet sigh of relief. He quickly glances at his phone again and reads Lucy's latest message. Text message: it's clear he's suspicious.
We need to leave now.
Elijah's eyes dart toward the door as he spots Lucy making her way back to the table. She looks tense but composed. Elijah, whispering urgently, let's go.
Now.
They both stand up quickly, walking briskly toward the exit, trying to remain unnoticed. As they approach the door, Elijah glances back one last time. Mr. Harris is still engrossed in his conversation but hasn't noticed their departure. The two slip into the night, breathing easier as the cool air hits them. They share a quick glance, silently acknowledging their close call. Lucy, half laughing, half relieved. That was too close. Elijah, smirking. You have no idea. Let's get out of here before anyone else shows up. Lucy and Elijah sit on the couch, still a little shaken from their near discovery. Elijah pulls out his phone and checks for any messages from Mr. Harris, but there's nothing. Elijah, half serious, half joking. That was too close for comfort. We're lucky we got out of there. Lucy, serious now.
It won't be the last time.
We can't keep running forever, Elijah. Elijah sighs, the weight of their situation hitting him more now than before. Elijah, I know. We'll figure it out. But for tonight, let's just be happy we're safe. Lucy and Elijah sit in silence, the weight of the near discovery settling heavily on both of them. The once warm and familiar feeling between them is now tinged with the pressure of the secret they are keeping. Lucy,
Sighing.
we can't just keep running from him. Sooner or later, it'll catch up to us. Elijah, softly, thoughtful,
I know.
we just need a plan. We can't let him find out about us. If he does, everything could fall apart. Lucy stands and walks to the window, looking out at the city skyline as if searching for answers. The glow of the streetlights reflects off her face, highlighting the uncertainty in her eyes. Lucy, quietly, it's not just Mr. Harris I'm worried about. My parents would never accept this. I don't know how much longer I can keep living this double life. Elijah, approaching her, I understand. I don't want you to feel like you have to choose between us and your life before. But I'm not going anywhere, Lucy. We'll figure it out. Lucy turns to face him, her eyes meeting his with a mixture of gratitude and concern. Lucy, softly, you don't understand. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about everything I've known, everything they've planned for me. If they find out, it won't just be my career or my future on the line. It'll be my family. Elijah's expression softens. He steps closer, taking her hand in his. Elijah, sincerely, we can handle this together. You don't have to carry this alone. Lucy looks at their intertwined hands, a small comfort in a world that feels increasingly out of her control. She leans her head against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. Lucy, whispering, but I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to make them understand. Elijah gently lifts her chin so their eyes meet again. Elijah, earnestly, we don't need to fix it all at once. We just need to take it one step at a time. One day, one decision. And no matter what happens, I'll be by your side. Lucy smiles faintly, the fear still in her eyes, but there's a glimmer of hope now. She feels the strength of Elijah's promise, even if she's unsure of how they'll navigate the future. Lucy, smiling weakly, you make it sound so easy. Elijah, laughing softly, I wish it were. There's a knock at the door. Lucy stiffens, glancing at Elijah with a worried expression. The air is thick with tension as Lucy and Elijah stand facing each other, both trying to catch their breath after their near escape. Their clothes are disheveled, and the adrenaline from the close call still lingers. Lucy, voice shaking, we can't keep doing this, Elijah. We're playing with fire. What if it happens again? What if? Elijah, softly, I know it's dangerous, but I can't walk away from you. Not now, not after everything we've been through. Lucy's eyes flicker with a mix of fear and longing. She wants to believe him, but the reality of their situation is too much to ignore. Lucy, but what about everything else? Our lives? The consequences? We can't just pretend none of that matters. Elijah sighs. You're right. We can't. But we can't pretend we're not in this together, either. We need a plan. A way out. Lucy rubs her temples, pacing the floor. The weight of their choices is bearing down on her. She knows Elijah is right, but she's not sure if running away is the answer. Lucy, what do we even have left? Everyone's watching us, waiting for us to slip up. Elijah, stepping closer. Then we stop letting them control us. We take control, Lucy. We do it on our terms. Lucy stops pacing, her eyes searching his face. There's an intensity in his gaze that she's never seen before. She knows he's right. They can't keep living in fear. Lucy, softly,
How do we do that?
Elijah's jaw tightens with determination. He reaches out, taking her hands in his. Elijah, we leave. We start over. Somewhere far away, where they can't find us. But we have to move quickly. There's no time to waste. Lucy hesitates, her mind racing with a million thoughts. She can feel the pull of everything she's ever known: the family, the expectations, the safety of her life. But when she looks into Elijah's eyes, she feels a spark, a chance for something real. Lucy, whispering, and what if it doesn't work? What if we're running from something we can't outrun? Elijah. We'll figure it out together. We have each other, and that's all that matters. The words hang in the air, heavy with promise and uncertainty. Lucy feels the weight of the decision pressed down on her chest. But in the quiet of the night, something inside her shifts. She nods slowly, a sense of resolve settling in. Lucy, then let's do it. Let's get out of here. The headlights of a car approach in the distance, casting long shadows across the yard. Lucy and Elijah freeze for a moment, the threat of being caught looming over them. They quickly retreat into the shadows behind the house, hearts racing. Lucy, whispering, "Someone's coming." What do we do? Elijah, urgently, "Get in the car.
Now.
We can't afford to get caught." They move quickly, their footsteps muffled against the grass as they reach the driveway. Elijah pulls open the door of an old, weathered sedan and shoves the keys into the ignition. Lucy hesitates for a split second, looking back at the house she's known her whole life, but then climbs into the passenger seat. Lucy, softly to herself.
Goodbye.
With a roar of the engine, they drive off into the night, the sound of the tires on the road becoming a constant hum. The house fades in the rearview mirror, along with the life she's been forced to live. The car speeds through the darkened streets, the headlights illuminating the road ahead. Lucy sits stiffly in the passenger seat, her hands clenched in her lap. Elijah drives with a tense focus, glancing occasionally at her. Elijah, we're almost there. Just a little further. Lucy nods, but her mind is a whirlwind of thoughts. She feels the weight of the choice she's made settling in. Her parents will be furious. There's no coming back from this. Lucy, quietly, do you think we can make it? Really? Elijah, determined. We don't have a choice now. We're in this together. She turns her gaze to him, seeing the certainty in his eyes, but also the worry. They both know that running away isn't a guarantee of safety. It's just a chance, a small, fragile chance. Lucy, what if they find us? Elijah, gritting his teeth. Then we keep moving. We don't stop until we're free. The car drives in silence for a while, the sound of the engine filling the space between them. Finally, Lucy breaks the quiet. Lucy, softly, I've never been this scared in my life. Elijah, sincerely, it's okay to be scared, but we'll do this. We'll make it. I won't let anything happen to you. Her eyes soften, and she looks out the window at the dark road ahead. In that moment, she realizes just how much she's relied on others in the past, her family, her friends, but now, for the first time, it's all up to her. The future is uncertain, but for the first time, she feels like she's making her own decision, taking control of her life. As the miles stretch out before them, the city lights fade, replaced by the darkness of the open road. The car hums along, carrying them farther and farther from everything they've ever known. The weight of the unknown presses in, but with each passing minute, it feels like they're leaving something behind. And maybe, just maybe, they're starting to build something new. Lucy, looking out the window. How far do you think we'll have to go? Elijah, pulling off the road. We'll take a break soon. But we need to keep moving, Lucy. We can't afford to stop for too long. He pulls the car off onto a small rest area, the headlights cutting through the dark. They sit in silence for a moment, the only sounds being the soft hum of the engine and the distant wind. Lucy, voice low, what if we're running from something we can't outrun? What if? What if it's not just them chasing us, but the things we've done? The things we can't forget? Elijah looks at her, his expression unreadable. Then, he speaks softly, his voice a mix of compassion and certainty. Elijah, sometimes, running is the only way to move forward. We can't undo the past, but we can choose what we do with what we have now. We have each other. And that's enough for me. Lucy looks into his eyes, a flicker of hope igniting within her. The past may haunt them, but for the first time, she feels like she has the power to shape her future. The road ahead is uncertain, but together, they just might find a way through it. Lucy, taking a deep breath. Okay, let's do this. Elijah sits in his dimly lit apartment, staring at the phone in his hand. He had received the call from Mr. Harris earlier that day, and his mind has been racing ever since. A sense of unease fills the room as he replays the conversation in his mind. The door creaks open, and Maria, Elijah's girlfriend, enters the room, her face lighting up at the sight of him. "Maria, you look like you've seen a ghost. What's going on?" Elijah takes a deep breath and puts down the phone. "Elijah, it's Mr. Harris. He wants me to keep an eye on his wife." Maria's expression shifts from concern to suspicion. "Maria, what do you mean, keep an eye on her?" "Elijah, he thinks something's going on with her. He believes I'm the only one he can trust to figure it out." Maria steps closer, her voice soft but firm. "Maria, Elijah, this doesn't sound right. Why would he ask you to do something like that?" "Elijah, I don't know, but he's my boss, Maria. He's been a mentor to me for years. I don't want to lose that, but I don't know if I can do this, spying on someone like this." Maria's eyes narrow as she sits down next to him. "Maria, you know what this could do to you, right? It's dangerous mentally and morally. If he finds out you're questioning his orders, things could go south quickly." Elijah rubs his temples, torn between loyalty and his own moral compass. "Elijah, I don't know what to do. If I refuse, he might think I'm hiding something. If I go along with it, I'm betraying the very principles I believe in." Maria leans in closer, placing a hand on his arm. "Maria, whatever you choose, Elijah, I'll stand by you. But you need to think this through. This could change everything for both of us." The next day, Elijah enters Mr. Harris's office with a heavy heart. The tension is palpable. "Mr. Harris, I trust you've given some thought to our conversation yesterday. Have you made your decision?" Elijah looks at Mr. Harris, his gaze unwavering, but his insides are churning. "Elijah, I need more time. This isn't something I can take lightly. I need to understand what's really going on first." Mr. Harris narrows his eyes, his voice hardening. "Mr. Harris, you don't get more time, Elijah. Either you help me or you're out. There's no middle ground." Elijah's pulse quickens as he processes the weight of the ultimatum before him. His career, his morals, and his future are all on the line. "Elijah, quietly, I'll do it." Mr. Harris smiles coldly, knowing he has won. "Mr. Harris, good. You made the right choice." Elijah walks into Maria's apartment, his face a mask of determination and regret. "Maria, did you do it? Did you agree?" Elijah nods, his voice strained. "Elijah, I didn't have a choice. If I said no, I would have lost everything. But I'll figure out what's going on. I'll keep my distance from his wife. I'll be careful." Maria walks up to him, her concern evident in her eyes. "Maria, just promise me you'll be careful. This could destroy us." Elijah looks at her, conflicted. "Elijah, I promise. I'll be careful." Elijah waits nervously in the lobby of a high-end hotel, watching the clock. His phone vibrates in his pocket, and he pulls it out. It's a text from Mr. Harris. Text message. "Meet her in the lobby. Don't let her know you're watching. Keep your distance." Elijah's stomach churns. He feels like he's stepping into a trap he can't escape from. He looks around and spots her Mrs. Harris. She's impeccably dressed, her presence radiating elegance and confidence. She's alone, walking toward the elevator. Mrs. Harris sits alone at a quiet corner booth in the hotel bar, sipping on a glass of wine. Elijah takes a seat at the bar, pretending to mind his own business. His eyes occasionally dart toward her, trying to remain inconspicuous. He watches her carefully, noting how she interacts with the bartender. She seems entirely at ease, almost too perfect. Elijah doesn't see any signs of suspicious behavior. She's just a woman enjoying her evening, but the nagging feeling in his gut tells him something is off. Outside the hotel, Mrs. Harris gets into her car, seemingly unaware of Elijah trailing behind. He watches her car pull out of the garage and silently decides to follow her. The drive is long and quiet, and Elijah's mind is filled with conflicting thoughts. Why is he doing this? What does he hope to uncover? He feels like a puppet on a string, pulled by Mr. Harris's demands. But as he follows her into a residential neighborhood, his unease intensifies. Mrs. Harris pulls up to a modest house at the edge of town and gets out of the car, looking around briefly before entering through the front door. Elijah parks across the street, unsure of what to do next. He can't shake the feeling that he's crossing a line, but his curiosity drives him to watch. He sits there for what feels like an eternity, wondering if he should make a move or turn back. Elijah arrives at Maria's apartment later that evening. She's pacing back and forth, waiting for him, her face etched with concern. "Maria, what happened? You were gone for hours." Elijah stands in the doorway, not quite looking at her. "Elijah, I followed her, Mrs. Harris. She went to a house. Nothing unusual, just a house in a quiet part of town." Maria's eyes narrow, sensing there's more to the story. "Maria, you didn't go inside, did you?" Elijah hesitates, guilt creeping into his chest. "Elijah, no, but I was tempted. I just wanted to know. If she's hiding something, I wanted to find it. But it didn't feel right. I don't think I'm supposed to be doing this." Lucy, voice breaking. "Every day I'm torn between two worlds. I'm supposed to be there for him, but I'm here with you. And it feels like I'm betraying both of you." Elijah stops pacing, his eyes softening as he looks at her. He steps closer, his voice lower, more urgent. "Elijah, Lucy, you can't keep doing this. You're suffocating. It's like you're living someone else's life, not your own. You have to choose." Lucy turns to face him, her face streaked with tears. Her hands tremble as she wipes them away, trying to regain control. "Lucy," shaking her head, "I don't know how to choose. I never thought it would come to this. I never wanted to hurt anyone." Elijah takes a step closer, his voice soft but determined. "Elijah, you have to think about yourself for once, Lucy. You're not responsible for his happiness. You can't keep sacrificing your own life for him." Lucy looks at Elijah, her gaze searching, as if looking for some kind of reassurance or answer. "Lucy," softly, "what if I lose him? What if I lose everything?" Elijah reaches out and gently places his hand on her arm, his touch grounding her in the moment. "Elijah, you won't lose everything. You'll find a way to be happy again. But you have to let go of the guilt. You can't keep carrying that weight." Lucy pulls away slightly, her eyes filled with uncertainty. She steps back toward the window, gazing out as if looking for some clarity. "Lucy," whispering to herself, "what if there's no way to fix this? What if we're all just broken?" Elijah watches her for a moment before speaking again, his voice firm but compassionate. "Elijah, then we'll fix it together. But you need to decide what you really want. It's your life, Lucy. You have the power to change it."